Welcome back and thanks for stopping by. And today we are reviewing Pearl Jam's Versus, released in 1993. So last week I reviewed Vitalogy, which was Pearl Jam's third album. And that album turned 30 on Friday of last week. So I decided to do a video for that. The video went across very well. And I've been talking to some of my subscribers and I asked them, do you want me to do another Pearl Jam video? And it was a big thumbs up. So I'm going to build on the momentum from that album review, hopefully, and I'm going to review Versus for this video. So this album was released, this is the second studio album with Pearl Jam, released in 1993, as I said. The original album, the first album Pearl Jam released, 10, was released in 1991, but didn't do a whole lot when it was released initially. It took a lot of radio play and, you know, it kind of was a success underground, and Pearl Jam were doing the live circuit. And as a result of all that momentum, the album eventually kicked off and then it sold a lot. But when this album came out, Pearl Jam were actually already a household name. So this album sold 950,000 copies on CD in the first week, which was absolutely huge. Catapulted the album to number one. It went on, I think, to, what was it now, seven times platinum in the US. And it was an absolute huge album for the band. So I suppose people knew who Pearl Jam were and they just went out and bought this album in their droves, and it was the highest selling album of all time up to that point. We'll just talk a little bit about the cover of the album. So the cover, it's a picture of a goat, and the goat is in behind wire, so it's obviously in containment there, or imprisoned. And Jeff Ament, the bass player from Pearl Jam, took this photograph. He's from Montana, so he took it in a farm in Montana, and it was meant to represent how the band felt imprisoned by the music industry and the whole corporate structure around the record industry. So very interesting. I think it's a very iconic cover. But interestingly enough, it doesn't actually say Versus anywhere on the cover. It just says Pearl Jam. It doesn't say it on the spine either. I don't know if you can see that there, but it just says Pearl Jam. So it's interesting. I'm not sure how people knew this album was called Versus at the time, if it doesn't say it on the album. I think my pressing here is from 1993. Yeah, so I'm not sure how people knew it was called Versus, but they did, and we all know now it's called Versus. I think Pearl Jam originally wanted to call their first album 10 5 versus 1, as in the band against the rest of the world. But that didn't happen. They went with 10 in the end. So, and obviously 10 was the number for the basketball player that they all loved, Mucky Blaylock. And they originally named the band after him, but they had to change the name when they signed the contract with a label. So speaking of labels, this one was released through Epic Records. And the sleeve is... yeah, it's pretty interesting. There's not really too many pictures of the band themselves. You can see there's the usual Pearl Jam thing, a lot of imagery, handwritten lyrics, typed lyrics, a lot of different things here. And then the band themselves, there's just one picture of the band, and they seem to be in the studio. Now, the studio they recorded this in was in Northern California, and they were struggling for ideas, I believe, during the recording of this album. So I think the studio was in a place called The Site in Northern California, and I think it might have been about an hour outside San Francisco. So some evenings, if Eddie was looking for inspiration, so this is Eddie Vedder, the lead vocalist of Pearl Jam, he would get in his pickup truck and drive into San Francisco and meet with some of the homeless people and people like that, people of the night, and try and get some inspiration, because he was cracking up with how isolated the studio was. I don't know what the reason for going to that studio was. Might have been the record company trying to keep an eye on the band, because they knew they were a bit unruly, you know, and wouldn't necessarily follow the rules. In terms of production for this album, it says produced by Brendan O'Brien and Pearl Jam. So the band were involved in production as well. But Brendan O'Brien is one of my favourite producers. I think he's an absolutely fantastic engineer, mixer, producer, everything. He actually played the guitar solo on that song Hard to Handle by the Black Crowes. A lot of people don't actually know that. So he's a fantastically gifted musician, but he's worked with a lot of artists that I really respect. Obviously, you know, he did a lot with Pearl Jam, but he's also worked with Rage Against the Machine, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Soundgarden. So an absolutely brilliant producer. But you can hear that he serves the artist in the best way possible. He's not like someone like Mutt Lange, who just sounds like Mutt Lange, or maybe Bob Rock has a certain sound. It's that, you know, arena rock sound. Brendan O'Brien doesn't really do that. He's worked with Bruce Springsteen on a number of albums, and like, it's not like Bruce Springsteen sounds like Rage Against the Machine or Pearl Jam. These are all, you know, different artists who have their own sound. So he stays loyal to Bruce's sound, but he just is able to get this absolutely fantastic recording and capture the performance and mix it really, really well, so it comes across well on a good set of speakers. So yeah, really, really like Brendan. He's, again, he also provides ideas for songwriting if they're needed. He can play different instruments if that's needed as well. So he's a great producer, apparently, to work with for all the top artists. But he did a hell of a job on this album. I think this album is absolutely outstanding. So the lineup for Pearl Jam on this album: Eddie Vedder on vocals. I think Eddie plays a little bit of guitar on some of these songs. We have Stone Gossard on rhythm guitar, Mike McCready on rhythm and lead guitar. We also have Jeff Ament on bass. And then on drums, we have a guy called Dave Abruzzese, who is Pearl Jam. A lot of Pearl Jam fans, he's their favourite drummer. He's absolutely fantastic. He appeared on Versus on Vitalogy and then had to leave the band. If you want to hear a bit more about that, check out my other video on my review of Vitalogy. But this was Dave's introduction to studio recording with the band. He had already been playing live with the band for a number of years. He appeared on the 1992 MTV Acoustic Unplugged session with the band. So he's very much a part of the band at this stage, and he puts his stamp on this album. An absolutely fantastic drummer, no doubt about it. So standout tracks on this one for me, to be honest, they're all so great. You know, Go, Animal, Daughter, Glorified G is a great song. Dissident, again, another fantastic song. MDA, Blood, Rearview Mirror. I think Rats is probably the only song that could have been dropped from the album and it wouldn't make a difference. And then we have Elderly Woman, Leash, again, another absolute rocker, and it finishes off with the ballad Indifference, which is an absolutely fantastic track. So go listen to this, guys. If you like Pearl Jam, you'll already be very aware of this album. If not, go pick it up, have a listen. It's absolutely fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed my review. Let me know your opinion in the comments below. And if you could like, share, hit the notification bell, all that stuff helps out my channel, and I greatly appreciate it. And I will talk to you on the next one. Bye now.